Folks, today we are turning on the green LED light, putting on the Mr. Krabs hat, which Editor Riff made me for Christmas. I mean, can you believe that guy? And taking $100 and taping it to the wall for some reason. Because today we are talking about money. Now, before I get into the dirty details of exactly how much money is in my bank account right now, I want to address a couple of valid concerns. The first one is, Caleb, why are you making a whole video about how much money you're making? That you're kind of a D-bag. And to that I would say, yes, I pretty much just agree with that. And the second concern is actually one in my own mind. That is, I hope that new resellers won't see this video and compare themselves. The last thing that I want is to be triggering FOMO or insecurity in other people because you're not as far along in the journey. So if that's you and you're prone to feeling less about yourself because you're comparing yourself to others who are farther along, go ahead and skip this video. There are plenty of other ones, over here on the side that you will definitely enjoy. But the reason that I think it's so important for me to make these videos, because I made one last year as well, I'm doing one right now, is that if you are someone that claims to teach people to make money online, financial transparency is so important. It's the only thing I think that separates the actual practitioners from the gurus who in reality make most of their money on course sales. So without further ado, with Mr. Krabs as our guide, let's go ahead and start talking some of the financial figures of my resale business this year.
I like money.
Starting out with gross sales. This means the raw number of when something sells for $100, it is $100. Nothing is subtracted out, no fees, no shipping, no taxes, nothing. These are the largest numbers that people often like to flex on Instagram or YouTube because they're the biggest and they're the sexiest. So on Amazon, we had gross sales of $299,033 this year, which I'm pretty happy with. In reality, it's down from last year, but all things considered, 2020 was just kind of a crazy year in terms of video game sales, so I'm not sad about that. eBay came in at $66,650. Then I also just started selling on Whatnot, which brought me $4,681 with the 3 combined auctions that I did on there. Those are my first 3 auctions, and I'm honestly really happy about that. And then I also factored in cash sales of around $5,000 because I sold some at my first convention ever, and sometimes we'll do miscellaneous cash deals. So the total gross sales that my business earned this year was $375,364. And I actually was taking a look at the graph of my Amazon sales this year compared to last year, and if you take a look, you'll see that this year they're actually consistently lower than last year. The biggest reason is that like all consoles right when the pandemic hit were absolutely crazy spiked. Sales volume was super high, prices of games were going crazy, so I expected this year honestly to be a little bit lower than last year. I would say that my margins on the product I did sell this year were better. And also a big thing is I was focusing on the YouTube channel a lot more this year. I would say I work around like 50 to 60 hours a week, and about half of that, maybe a little bit less than half, is dedicated to the channel, with the other half or so going to resale. And this year I definitely amped up the amount of time I was putting into the channel and also worked a little bit less than I did in 2020. That year was just, I was probably working closer to 70 hours a week. So all those things considered, I'm totally happy with this year being a little bit down in terms of gross sales. A few other interesting figures that I think my fellow resellers will appreciate is on Amazon this year, I sold 6,804 units for an average of 19 units per day, which for me, as a single man operation on the resale side of my business, I'm thrilled with. Like, I'm really proud of that number. That's something that I don't think is super easy to do, but I'm just really proud that I was able to source and list and send in that number of average units per day, or an average shipment per week of around 140 things. My average sale price on Amazon, given those units sold, was $44, which I'm also really happy with. Moving over to the eBay side, you guys can see kind of the drastic difference of volume between the two platforms because I had only 800 279 units sold on eBay, or an average of 2.4 per day. Again, my total sales there were 66,000. 10,500 of that was at auction. The biggest reason that my eBay sales were still so high was because of sales of graded games. Those were definitely my highest dollar items this year, and being able to have a few of those, maybe like 1 or 2 on average each month, definitely helped increase my average sale price to $75 on that platform. Now, the next numbers that I'll talk about are net sales. This is once you factor in fees that I'm paying and also sometimes shipping depending on the platform. So my Amazon net sales were 219,000. So out of the 300,000 on Amazon in sales that I did, around 80,000 of that I paid in fees for sending my items into FBA. Out of my gross sales of 66,000 on eBay, I paid around 16,000 in fees, so my net eBay sales were 50,755 bucks. And then my other miscellaneous sales between Whatnot and cash, and there also was an insurance claim early in the year, which isn't sales, but it was income, so I factored it in, was $22,017, leaving me with a total net sales of $292,019, which sounds really impressive until you realize that I haven't factored in any of my expenses yet. The biggest one being cost of goods, what I paid for all the inventory that I'm selling, and then all of the other little expenses such as paying myself a salary and taxes and gas and car maintenance and supplies, and I also renovated this room this year, which was maybe like a couple thousand. Anyway, the total cost that I paid for my inventory this year, according to QuickBooks, is $163,910, which kind of blows my mind that I paid that much for video games this year, especially given that in 2018, I started the business with $500 that I had saved up to start a resale business. So looking at that number is just kind of mind-blowing, and just makes me really grateful for how far the business has been able to come. And then once you factor in all the other random operating expenses, my salary, taxes, supplies, all that stuff, that added up to $73,103, totaling $237.13. So when you subtract that $237 in expenses from the 292 that I had in net sales, bear with me here, we're getting a little bit, business heavy. What I am left with coming home in my pocket, in my bank account after paying everything is, Riff, can I get a drum roll, please? $55,006. Now, you might hear that number and think to yourself, wow, that's actually a pretty far cry from the $375,000 in gross sales that you told us about at the start of the video. And to that I would say, yeah, it totally is, which is why you have to be so careful when you see folks on social media flexing and saying, oh, I'm a 6-figure seller, or oh, look at all of these sales, I sold $1 million this year, because you don't actually know what their net numbers are unless they're showing you those as well, and oftentimes those numbers can be really different. Now, I do need to give a few disclaimers about this number because it doesn't actually paint the full picture. First of all, I'm super conservative with my tax savings. Last year I saved up like $36,000 for taxes, and I ended up getting $22,000 of that back, so that really helped my bottom line even after I made my what I made this year video. So it's likely that that 55 will go up a decent bit just because I like to play it safe on that end. That's not tax advice, I'm not a CPA, but luckily my mother-in-law is, so she helps me out on that front. The other thing to consider is that for the purposes of this video, I'm not actually factoring in any of the income that I was able to make on YouTube or through the Discord or sponsorships or anything like that. Mostly because I wanted to anticipate the objection that I know I'm going to get in the comments of the hater Hank saying, oh, this Phoenix resale, he says that you can make money doing reselling, but he just makes all of his money on YouTube. He just suckers people in for views, and he doesn't even make money on what he's flipping. So hater Hank, first of all, you can suck a lemon, and second of all, These numbers are all just from the resale business. No YouTube revenue whatsoever was factored in. And also, while I do want to be as financially transparent as I possibly can, I don't really feel the need to share every aspect of my income with everybody on the internet. The other thing is that this year I was really heavily invested in grading. I've got a lot of items, sealed games getting graded right now that I haven't seen back yet, that I sent in up to like 5 or 6 months ago, to be honest. And I'm hesitant to say that because frankly, a lot of people start to kind of lose their minds when you bring up grading in the video game community. All reason and logic goes out the door and they just start hurling insults and accusations that I'm, propping up the market with WADA to inflate the prices of games and all that nonsense. But the reality is, for this video, I have a lot of money tied up right now at VGA because I'm waiting for all those games to get processed and come back to me. So that's another reason that I invested heavily this year and I won't see that return until next year. But of that $55,000, a little bit over half of it I actually have already reinvested. I put some into crypto, I invested some in a friend's business that we've had money with for a long time, and then the rest of it I put into plain old boring index funds through my SEP IRA. The other 20-some thousand is still sitting in my business bank account, which is 20-some thousand higher than it was last year. But the question that I'm asking myself now is how much cash is optimal to have liquid? Because on one hand, I don't ever want to have to pass up on a large deal because I don't have enough cash on hand. But on the other hand, I don't like a lot of cash sitting around in the bank account because you're actually losing money on that when it comes to inflation, not even counting the opportunity cost of not being invested in something that could be getting you a return on all of that time. Anyways, folks, I'm getting a little bit into the weeds here. The financial nerd side of me is coming out a little bit too strong, a little stronger than I'd like, so I'm gonna wrap this one up. The big takeaways from this are: 1, focus on growing your business every year. Don't compare yourself to other folks on social media who are flexing large, fancy gross sales numbers. Look at what you are actually able to take home from your business and compare yourself to yourself this time last year to measure whether you are being successful in business. And the other big thing is just the all-time importance of reinvesting your profits. I cannot stress that enough. I hope that this showed you a little bit just how much I am reinvesting given how low that net income number was. To this day, we take a very minimal salary from the business. I haven't been focused on amping that up and up and up a little bit every year as much as I can. Instead, I've been focused on keeping what I take out of the business super low so that I can take that money, put it back into more inventory or more infrastructure, or outsourcing more of my work in the form of hiring more people to increase the capacity of my business so that I can make more money in the future. And when you combine that mindset with the strategy of also investing in more long-term growth assets such as the index funds that we're putting money into, or real estate this next year, one of our big goals is to hopefully pay off this house, which would be amazing. Anyways, if you just reinvest as much as you can inside and outside of your business, you are going to set yourself up for huge financial success. Folks, thanks so much for indulging me for this video. I hope somebody out there found it helpful. And until next time, I will catch you all on the flip.